So Microsoft starts canceling Claude code licenses. Hallelujah, 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 da, da. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, this is my second video in a row showing you that the bubble is finally starting to burst in the AI world. Just did a video talking about OpenAI looking at suing Apple for breach of contract, which is awesome. And now we have Microsoft canceling the Claude code subscriptions for its developers because it doesn't want to hand over a lot of cash to its competitor. This is starting to show where the technology companies are starting to act like technology companies again. So one of the weird things that's been going on over the past couple of years for this whole AI disaster has been going is how all of these AI companies have been trying to play nice with each other and not just like not snark on each other, not just be mean to each other, but they're also using each other's products, they're using each other's infrastructure. There's this whole, again, You've seen the mess of what's going on, and it's just really been weird. I think basically what's going on right now is as the AI fraud is starting to deflate, all of these companies are starting to have to focus on business fundamentals. And when they focus on business fundamentals, you're going to start to see more and more things like Microsoft not wanting to pay Anthropic lots and lots and lots of money every year. And Microsoft basically wanting to force their own developers to use in-house tools. And when I talk about this, really think about like other eras in the tech industry. Like imagine if, I don't know, 10 years ago, what if all the Microsoft employees were writing documents in Apple Pages? Would that have seemed a little bit weird? Would that have seemed like, huh, right? Or Apple Keynote or something like that, doing slides in Apple Keynote. Google developers, using other people's product, like Google developers using Bing, right? I'm going to go on to Bing to search. They probably wouldn't do that because Bing was crap. But anyways, right? Like if you go back 10 years ago and you look at these big technology companies and they had their own flagship products. They would expect their employees to use those flagship products. One, because it's their product. Two, they don't have to pay for it, and many other things, right? If your own employees are using somebody else's product, that's a hell of a question, right? So if Microsoft creates this entire Office suite, and then all of their employees are using Google Docs, doesn't that tell you something? Well, wait a minute. If all Microsoft employees are using Google Docs, maybe I shouldn't be buying Office 365, right? But when we get to the AI world, right, this AI time period, we have all these tech companies all just being so nasty and incestuous. Even if they don't have their own products, even if they have their own offerings, they're still allowing their employees to purchase other people's products because it's just a good old-fashioned money orgy going on. Well, the money is drying up. Everything is changing. Blase, blase, blase. So we get to go back to a normal economy. And so that's where we see Microsoft canceling Claude code subscriptions. Microsoft is abruptly reversing course on its Anthropic partnership, canceling most Claude code licenses just 6 months after rolling them out to thousands of internal developers. The move, which sources say caught many teams off guard, marks a strategic pivot back to Microsoft's own Copilot Claude tool. What started as an experiment to democratize coding across Microsoft is now becoming a case study in how big tech protects its AI turf. Microsoft is pulling the plug on what turned out to be a very successful experiment, maybe too successful for its own comfort. The company is now canceling most licenses for Anthropic's Claude code and redirecting developers to use its homegrown Copilot Claude instead. The timing is striking. Microsoft first opened up Claude code access to internal developers back in December, inviting thousands of employees, including project managers and designers with minimal coding experience to experiment with AI-assisted development. The initiative was part of a broader push to democratize code across the organization, letting non-engineers build tools and automate workflows. But Claude Code caught on faster than anticipated. Over the past 6 months, the tool became genuinely popular inside Microsoft. Sources say developers appreciated its capabilities, and adoption spread organically across teams. That popularity, ironically, appears to be driving its demise. Copilot Cli, Microsoft's alternative, represents the company's command line interface for its GitHub Copilot program. By consolidating developers onto Copilot, Microsoft keeps AI coding activity within its own ecosystem and captures all the usage data, feedback, and organizational knowledge that comes with it. Isn't that kind of interesting? That Microsoft is looking at all of their data going out to Anthropic and saying, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe paying for a service that all of our coders go to, all of that information goes out, basically leaves their system. Who knows what Anthropic is really doing with that data when they get it? Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. And this has been one of my arguments with this whole AI disaster, especially when you look at the open source models, right? Whether it's GPT-OSS that comes from OpenAI, whether it's DeepSeek or Kiwi or any of these other ones. One of my big arguments is that we're going to start to see more and more products that can simply be run inside your own infrastructure. Maybe it's cloud infrastructure, a hybrid infrastructure, where you purchase an instance up on AWS or even purchase an instance up on Azure, right? Spin up your little AI service, and then your company uses that instead of directly paying out to Anthropic or to OpenAI, or to any of these companies. So it is interesting. I always talk about that with executives. Don't necessarily listen to what they say, look at what they're doing. And Microsoft, here and now, is showing that they do not feel comfortable with other companies basically controlling their AI systems. The move also has financial implications. Enterprise AI coding assistant licenses aren't cheap, and Microsoft was effectively paying Anthropic for thousands of seats. Switching to internally developed tools eliminates that cost while strengthening Microsoft's own AI product portfolio. It's a classic build versus buy decision, and Microsoft is choosing to build. The other thing to be thinking about this with evaluations, right? Anthropic now has a $900 billion valuation, which is insane. Apparently, they just agree. They decided to accept $30 billion and take that $900 billion valuation. Apparently, I think they did that today, right? But one of the things is with all of these companies, the reason that they're worth $1 trillion or whatever else is because the increase in ARR, annual recurring revenue, which again is a bit of a garbage metric, but it is what it is. One of the interesting things though, is we have been through the past 3 years, this massive phase of hyperscale adoption of AI systems, even when companies don't know what to do with the AI systems, right? They're literally, we see this with Microsoft, we've seen this with Meta, we've seen this with other companies. I've talked with people that work in smaller companies. This whole idea that you have to use artificial intelligence, even if you don't know what you're using it for, even if it doesn't solve your problems, even if it doesn't, right? You have to buy AI services. And one of the big concerns in the tech world is there are these smaller boom bust cycles whenever a new technology comes out, right? So a new technology comes out, and then companies have to figure out what products that they actually want to use, right? And so during that time period, they are going to overbuy, they are going to over-provision in order to figure out what actually works for them. And then at some point, the CFO is going to look at all the money going out, and they're basically going to say, pick one. Pick one, right? I remember this. I had a buddy of mine, and this was back when the whole argument about, should companies go to the cloud? Anyways, I had a buddy of mine who was a CTO for a company. And his friend basically wanted to do a new Exchange Server migration, right? So they had like Exchange Server 2012 or something, and they're going to Exchange Server 2016. I'm not sure the number counts on Exchange past 5.5, but it was something like that, right? Anyways, so he just needed $50,000, right? Okay, we need to migrate to the new Exchange servers, blase, blase, blase. Goes to CFO, is like, look, I need a check or an agreement for $50,000, sign off on it. Literally, the CFO looked at the CTO and said, we're going to Office 365. You're like, what? You don't get to make that call. You're the CFO. And the CFO said, well, when you go do Office 365, so you're paying per month billing or whatever, you basically get to remove that from your revenue, from your profit immediately, so you can write it off immediately every year. Plus, you don't have to worry about depreciation costs. Plus, you don't have to worry about a whole bunch of this other tax liability and that kind of thing. So Office 365 makes more sense than an Exchange server. And so the company went with Office 365, right? Because at the end of the day, the CFO generally tells everybody what to do. And I think that's going to be the interesting, and we haven't heard a lot of that, right, out of the corporate world, of CFOs putting their feet down. CFO saying, what is the actual ROI for this $200 seat? Right? We're buying all these seats for all of the licenses. Many of it is duplicative. What can we start scaling back? And that'll be one of the interesting things to see with these AI companies with $1 trillion valuation is all of their growth models seem to be based off of this initial phase of basically hyperscale implementation. And the question will come in the future of what happens when the CFO starts stepping in and saying, look, we are not getting value for this investment. Ergo, we're going to stop investing down these lines going into the future. Is a thing to be pondering, thing to be considering, right? For developers caught in the transition, the shift means workflow disruption. This is what I love too. Oh, poor developers, you're screwed. You're screwed. See, the good news is you weren't laid off. The bad news is you still have your job. For developers caught in the transition, the shift means workflow disruptions. Teams that spent months integrating Claude code into their processes now face migration timelines and retraining. Some may find Copilot Claude offers comparable or better functionality, but others will likely miss features they'd grown accustomed to in Claude code. And that's one of the big things too with this whole AI stuff is every product that you use, right, there will be a certain focus on the product. There will be a certain UI, UX, user experience for the product. There's going to be a certain set of functionalities and the whole 9 yards. One of the big problems that you're going to have when you start flipping through and using different AI systems is it's just going to take a lot of time for your user base to get used to this new AI system. Not only that, and when we're talking about these AI systems with these LLMs, one of the big issues is that the output that you get isn't necessarily the same amongst these different models, right? So if you're using email, right? So I don't know, you go from Exchange Server to Lotus Notes, GroupWise, whatever the hell that was. Anyway, I don't know. You go from Outlook and Office 365 to Gmail. Like email is email, right? Email is email. You put in who it's going to. You put in a title or whatever, a subject line. You put in your message. An email is look, the formatting might be slightly different. The security on the different clients might be a little bit different. But email is basically, you're like, oh, okay, I need to press the button on the right-hand side instead of pressing the button on the left-hand side. Right? That's, how do I add an auto signature to email on this? That's the kind of stuff you have to go through when you migrate, let's say, an email client. The issue that you run into with AI is that the services literally provide different answers. You put in the exact same prompt with the exact same context into two different these LLM systems, and you will get two different responses. That's the entire argument around prompt engineering or context engineering. And the important thing to understand about prompt engineering and context engineering is not simply that you become a prompt engineer or a context engineer and then you can do it for everything, is that all of these different AI systems function slightly differently. So now you have thousands of employees that have gotten used to a product that they like, and now you're gonna flip them over to another product. That sounds miserable. That sounds miserable. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Microsoft dropping the Anthropic licenses and forcing their own employees to use their own home-rolled version? What do you think about that? Again, in a wider context. If Microsoft doesn't trust Anthropic to do their coding, should I trust Microsoft to do my coding? And also, what do you think about the migration experience for all these developers? All these developers have been getting hammered for the past year. You've got to use AI, you've got to use AI, you've got to use AI. They finally got on board. They finally are using AI. They find a product they like that is giving results that they appreciate. And now they got to flip over to a different AI. Imagine back in the old days, if you finally settled on Microsoft Office, because Microsoft Office, after a few iterations, was actually a really, really good piece of productivity software. And then imagine after you did that, you had to go onto that IBM crap. Remember that IBM crap? It was like Lotus. Was it Lotus? Lotus Notes. I had one company where I had to deal with that. I was like, what the fuck? Why did you ever buy these licenses? It's legacy, Eli. Damn you, legacy. Anyways, can you imagine? Anybody here remember Office versus Lotus? Oh, that was miserable garbage. Oh, I still remember booting up my computer. It's just like, what is this? How do I get Office? We don't have Office licenses. Buy Office licenses. I'll buy the licenses. Can I buy my own Office licenses? Anywho, put your thoughts down below if you like these episodes. They are on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Link is in the doobly-doo, along with the link to my LinkedIn account if you'd like to follow the other stuff that I do with that. See y'all later.